Media scrutiny of Ben Carson is spiking since his surge in the polls, and Dr. Carson is now complaining about CNN's coverage of his background. Carson describes himself as a man who was saved from a bleak path in life by faith. Well, that faith now a popular target for other candidates and in some cases the mainstream media itself. Let's talk about it with Lynn Sweet, Washington bureau chief for the Chicago Sun-Times. Cal Thomas is a syndicated columnist and Fox News contributor. Cal, let's start with you. You have seen other candidates questioned about your faith. Is what is happening about their faith, I should say, is what is happening with Ben Carson fair?
Well, sure. But look, I think, John, the media have a ignorance of religion and religious faith that really goes back to, in modern times, to Jimmy Carter. You may be old enough to remember that when Carter came out and said that he was born again, John Chancellor of NBC Nightly News got on the air one night and said, we've looked up this born again business and it's nothing new. Well, that caused guffaws in the evangelical community. Later, Michael Weiskopf of the Washington Post wrote a piece in which he said the evangelicals are poor, uneducated, and easy to command. And there was a huge reaction to that, prompting Joanne Bird, the ombudsman of the Washington Post, to say, well, what we meant was most of them are poor, uneducated, and easy to command. This is the kind of ignorance that is just inexcusable, I think, among the media.
Republicans, Lynn, say that they are targeted more often by the media for, their religious faith or for professions of faith than Democrats ever would be.
Well, why don't we just keep this to the subject at hand, because it's a big one. Ben Carson talking about faith. Okay, he took an unfair, wrong blow from Donald Trump when he questioned his Seventh-day Adventist behavior. That was covered. Trump didn't come out of that looking very well. Anything in a presidential candidate's life is fair game. Ben Carson is learning that, including religion. And I think that if you look at all the stories that will be written by the mainstream media is not monolithic. I want to say that again so your viewers know that. It's a hard concept, but there are going to be many stories written on faith because so much of the Ben Carson phenomenon and his popularity is driven by faith-based communities, and they deserve and will get coverage and explanation. Just as when Mitt Romney ran for president, we learned a lot, very substantially, about his Mormon faith, and good for our learning curve.
Go ahead, Cal.
Sorry. I think the complaint among many Republicans and conservatives is that equal time is not applied to the Democratic candidates. For example, Hillary Clinton claims to be a Methodist, but I doubt seriously if anybody is going to delve into her faith. And going back to the Wesley brothers, the founders of modern-day Methodism, and the reason for that, I believe, is that her alleged faith comports pretty much with the secular line when it comes to abortion, same-sex marriage, and all of the other traditional values questions. So all that conservatives are asking for is some equanimity here, that Hillary Clinton and even Bernie Sanders be held to the same standard that's being applied to people like Ben Carson. I don't think that's an unfair question.
Carson is at the center. Well, Carson is at the center of the. Well,
can I just quickly say, though, because actually Hillary Clinton's Methodist faith, it is not alleged, she is a church-going Methodist, has been a part of many stories written about her through the decades, including the influence that her youth pastor growing up in Park Ridge had on her.
All right. Ben Carson is at the center of this because he's been the subject of some critical articles. He says that his faith saved him when he was on a very downward path, even stabbing one of his relatives. Megyn Kelly asked him about that last night on her program over his teenage redemption stories. Listen.
I know that you said that this feels like a witch hunt, what's happening over at CNN, but let me ask you flat out whether you stand by the claim that you, as a young man, as a 14-year-old boy, attempted to stab another boy and attacked your mother with a hammer.
Those claims are absolutely true. I am 100% sure that they are true. And this is simply an attempt to smear and to deflect the argument to something else, something that we've seen many, many times before.
Kind of interesting the way this is working, Cal. Here's a guy who says I was doing terrible things, and the media don't want to believe him.
Well, that's true. He did say on the show, I think it was that show last night, I saw it, that he had contacted the person he says he stabbed, and apparently the person doesn't want to come forward, which is fine. But this, this gets to truth-telling and the rest. I do think, though, that this is minor compared to some of the major issues that confront us. And we're in a 24/7 news cycle, and they're going to pick apart every life, at least among the Republicans right now, like the entrails of a dead chicken. So this is a little game they play. This is political foreplay before the Republican Party decides who it wants to get married to.
All right, Lynn, quickly, Ben Carson has the highest positive rating when it comes to honesty of any of the candidates. Is that part of what's going on here?
I don't think so. Seems to me this is the routine look at a major candidate. It's the compliment being given to him by the media, all media, not monolithic, of taking him seriously.
All right. Lynn Sweet, Cal Thomas, good to talk to you.
Thank you, John.